In the late 1980s, the Irish economy was in dire straits. Unemployment was at a whopping 16%, and the manufacturing sector was on its last legs, with the GDP per capita being barely over $10,000. For many people, the only way out was to get out of the country, that being. People began emigrating to sunnier pastures, having long given up on Ireland, stumbling across an economic four-leaf clover. And then, less than a decade later, it all changed. GDP per capita had more than doubled, unemployment had plummeted, and most importantly, foreign investment had begun pouring in. The Celtic tiger had begun to roar. Today, the Irish GDP per capita is around $105,000. This is in the elite class of world rankings, up there with the likes of Singapore, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. The average salary in Ireland has skyrocketed to about $80,000, again, in the top tier of world rankings. Ever since the mid-1990s, companies have begun flocking to Ireland to set up businesses, and in many cases, base their headquarters there. Many of the expats who fled Ireland in the late 80s and early 90s have come back to the roost, delighted to find that their home country is in a historical period of growth and prosperity. Much of the growth has come from sectors that will continue to grow in the future, like biotech, pharmaceuticals, finance, and software engineering. So what brought about this economic boom? Why have so many businesses pinpointed Ireland as the place in which to focus their operations? The list of companies who've set up shop in Ireland reads like a who's who of corporate giants. Google, Pfizer, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Vodafone are among the global companies that look at Ireland and like what they see. There are several reasons why the Emerald Isle ticks so many boxes for multinational companies, with some of them probably not as obvious as others. A major incentive is Ireland's tax schemes. For starters, there's the corporate tax rate. Ireland's 12.5% corporate tax rate is among the lowest in the developed world. It's almost half the rate of other nations. In America, corporate tax is something like 21%, Japan is about 23%, and France 25%. For CEOs of major corporations, this is how to run a company 101, an absolute no-brainer. It gives their companies a big competitive advantage over those who don't base at least some of their operations out of Ireland. Paying lower corporate taxes frees up funds for more reinvestment back into the company. It also allows for corporations to use more money for expansion, research, and innovation. These last two are particularly important because Ireland also grants a 25% tax break to any companies that qualify for research and development expenditure. This R&D tax credit is a huge incentive for businesses to spend more on technology and growth industries such as biotech and renewable energy. To sweeten the deal, Ireland has also established tax treaties with 74 countries, including the US, Germany, China, and Japan. These treaties are aimed at preventing the dreaded double tax. Double tax occurs when a company is operating internationally and is taxed twice on the same income. Tax treaties like this are a big old welcome mat on Ireland's front door. It reinforces Ireland's positive mindset towards attracting businesses and is a win-win for both parties. Less taxes for businesses and more investment in jobs for Ireland. Jobs for the Irish is another important factor behind the big movement to Ireland. At 35, Ireland has the youngest mean population age in Europe. This means a young workforce and a highly educated one. Around half of the Irish workforce has a college degree, which is higher than the EU average of about 41%. Not only is the Irish workforce well-educated and entrepreneurial, but they're also skilled in key industries like science, engineering, and technology. This is due to Ireland's education system encouraging and funding the STEM areas: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Irish universities perform very well on the global stage, and their graduates enter the workforce with real, applicable skills that the big companies need. Of course, it's great to have these tax incentives and a highly skilled workforce, but it's even better to have access to one of the world's biggest economies, the European Union. The EU has more than 440 million potential consumers and offer companies based in Ireland huge opportunities to tap into that market. Britain's loss has very much been Ireland's gain. Life after Brexit has left Ireland in a unique English-speaking country with EU membership. This is a big pull factor for companies looking to establish themselves in Europe, as setting up in Ireland means no language barriers and a relatively smooth cultural transition for those involved. Being in the EU enables the free movement of goods, services, and people, which is vital for companies either already established or looking to grow in the EU. Also working in Ireland's favor is that it's a genuinely attractive location for a lot of corporations. A stable government, an English-speaking population, and a well-serviced country that's easy to get around only adds to Ireland's appeal. It's also very convenient from a geographical perspective, sharing the same time zone as London and located between North America and Europe. The influx of overseas companies in Ireland has made it one of the most productive countries in the world. Worker productivity is measured by how much value someone brings or creates by the things that they make or do. For example, the productivity of a person cranking out coffee in a cafe can be measured by how much people actually want to drink that coffee. Whereas someone working on high-tech medical equipment or a green energy innovation is going to be far more valuable productively. Ireland's large number of international corporations that produce and provide high-value goods and services means that Ireland's become an increasingly productive country. In fact, in December 2023, the OECD marked Ireland as one of the world's most productive countries. The average worker was estimated to contribute 93 euros per hour, or about $95, twice the OECD average. So, how did that all come about? What caused Ireland's rapid economic growth? Well, in 1987, a minority government took office and decided to get Ireland's finances in order. The country's huge unemployment, lack of wage growth, and debt issues had been a red flag to foreign investors. The new government immediately decided to crack down on public spending and slashed a planned program of expenditure. Public servants expecting a raise were fuming, but the government was able to reclaim some precious revenue. The government then embarked on what it called a program for national recovery. The programs basically entail bargaining with trade unions and coming to an agreement on long-awaited wage rises, with the promise of tax breaks. This led to fewer labor disputes, and it really set the scene for a more favorable image of Ireland to overseas investors. With its finances slowly becoming sorted, Ireland was on the right path. Still had work to do, though. In the mid-1980s, Ireland was notorious for having one of the worst telecommunication systems in Europe. It had been a major source of frustration for foreign businesses, and the Irish government realized that it needed a complete overhaul. Instead of privatizing, though, the government decided to go all in and increase funding to deliver a truly world-class telecommunication system. The late 80s also saw Ireland invest in another crucial area: education. More universities and more funding into key areas of study such as, again, technology and science, meant that Ireland was now beginning to catch the eye of global heavyweights, like Apple. By 1993, Ireland boasted the OECD's largest number of science and technical graduates in the 25 to 34-year-old age group. A formerly run-down area near the Dublin docks was given a complete facelift and repackaged as Ireland's International Finances Services Centre. Establishing a financial district was a critical moment in Ireland's economic transformation. It signaled the shift from a traditionally agricultural-based economy to a knowledge and services-based economy. The real icing on the cake, though, came from the form of tax incentives. The 1997 Taxes and Consolidated Acts allowed Ireland in the legal standing to introduce huge corporate tax cuts, which, again, that was a bold effort to lure American multinationals. Corporate tax was a hefty 40% in the mid-80s, but in 1997 it was slashed to 12.5%. Almost immediately, businesses began looking at how to relocate to Dublin. Another interesting trend began to emerge. Fewer people were leaving Ireland in search of work. Many were making the shift from agricultural jobs to the service sector, which was now on the rise, and creating thousands of new jobs. Insurance, finance, health, education, and government were all benefiting from a growing workforce and a much improved telecommunications network. Suddenly, Ireland was the place to be. Tech and communication companies such as Microsoft, Intel, Motorola, and Hewlett-Packard began setting up office. Then came the banks, followed by pharmaceutical giants. By the mid-2000s, Ireland's GDP per capita had quadrupled since the 1980s. Wages were increasing, and nobody was thinking about leaving. Ireland's economic renaissance had just frankly been impressive and very well thought out. Just as the Asian tigers Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, and South Korea had done, Ireland's been able to launch itself onto the world stage. By daring to reinvent itself, Ireland has not just escaped from the economic doldrums, it's become an economic inspiration.